Good evening, my name is Odie Hawkins, and once again, I'm here to talk about books. Oh, before I start talking about books, let me bring in my wife, my co-conspirator, my friend.
Yes, I'm coming.
Love of my life, Zola Salena.
Hello there.
Hey, come on in and join me.
Yes, indeed.
I was just getting ready to talk with the audience. I know there are three of you all there.
Thanks. Hello.
Hey, Roger, how you doing?
Hey, Roger.
The books,
Linda.
as usually I would have a stack of books right here. I have 38 published books and about 10 that are waiting to be published.
And you can check out his website, www.odiehawkins.com. Or just Google Odie Hawkins.
Thanks for that.
You got that.
This evening, we thought we would talk about the subject matter of both of the books. The first book I don't have a copy of because it's been pilfered from me. No, we gave it away. It's called Kwanzaa for Conrad. And Conrad was a man who suffered from mental illness. Physically, he was an imposing specimen. He was about 6'3", and he hung out on Spring Street, right across the street from the Department of Justice, where Zola Salena used to work.
And he used to...
You take it from there.
He used to be on the side of at the Department of Justice, but I gather forces be what they are, they made him go across the street. And Conrad
Well, number one, he stank.
He did stay. Okay, but he had a reason. He told me that he wanted to shower because he knew he needed to shower, but every time he got into the shower, someone would turn the water on till it was scalding and burn him. So, fact or fiction, he believed it, and therefore he wouldn't take showers.
What made him put, I've always been curious about this. What made him feel so much trust in you?
I don't know. I think that's a family blessing or curse.
Yeah.
People do often share.
I would come to pick Zola up from the Department of Justice. I parked the car in the garage, come downstairs, and very often Conrad would be leaning against the mailbox. He was tall enough to just put his elbow on top of the mailbox. And he says in a very gentle voice, one of the things he was interested in, could you go into the coffee shop and get me a cup of espresso? I would like to have a cup of espresso. Well, of course, they wouldn't allow him in the coffee shop because when I say he stank, he didn't stink naturally. He had issues with his elimination systems, which meant that he smelled like both feces and urine. So quite often I would go and get him an espresso, and he would let me know that she's coming, she should be here in a few minutes.
Oh, also he would pay for it. Oftentimes he would give me money to go get coffee.
Oh, you too?
Right, yeah. And he would give me a couple of dollars. You know, he knew how much it was.
Yeah.
So, you know, and, you know...
he was not a mad man. He was sort of gently crazy.
I was told that he apparently played football at one time. At least one of the attorneys thought he played football at one time. And that he had a relative in Pasadena. And I gave him $20 to take a picture of him for the cover. And like I said, he was a quiet person who stayed on one spot for like over 20-some years.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what he did on weekends, but during the week he was right there on that spot.
You know, there's something I've noticed.
Oh, well, you go get yourself some libation.
A libation.
Right? You know.
I've got a cup of tea, yeah.
I've got a couple of ginger beer. It's not beer, it's soda. Ginger, Jamaican beer. Soda.
Well, this might be also soda.
It could be.
Yeah, he was the kind of person that you didn't feel ill at ease talking with, despite the fact that, I mean, I can think of how many times somebody would come up and talk with him, I remember they had a couple of evangelistic types who stood there talking with him face to nose, saying some kind of prayer for his soul or whatever they were doing.
There was a very attractive woman who put her hand on top of his head and was praying for him. And I really wondered at that moment, looking across, whether he was really feeling her prayer or was just so happy to have somebody touching him.
I would like to suggest it was the latter. It was the latter.
Might have been.
Anyway, someone asked me, not someone, but several people asked me, why would you focus on people in your pieces? That was Conrad. That was Conrad. The second book that we're going to talk about two of them today. This is called Conversations with Likka Sto Rufus. Conversation with Likka Sto Rufus. Rufus Montaigne III may have been a tunnel rat in Vietnam and had a love affair with a young woman in Australia and had some other sort of picaresque things happen with him.
Was truth stranger than fiction?
Oh, he may not have been.
Fiction is stranger than truth.
So I kind of lit up on both sides of it. There may have been some truth in this. The cover of this particular book is by a friend of mine named Carlos Speedy. Carlos is a wonderful artist. I'll let it go at that.
Okay. And, when you think about this, sometimes when you see people homeless or, victims of the trail on the street, laying down under a blanket or without a blanket, for myself, I wonder, how did they get there? At one time, there was somebody's baby, hopefully appreciated. So from being a born child to, from a baby to a child to adulthood, what happened along the way? And both of us being very conscious of our health and keeping your mental abilities together, we focus on food. Like, you might want cake, but apples are better.
Ah.
Okay? And
okay, this is cake.
That's cake, but that's fake cake. As even real cake, too much cake is not the best thing for your health.
Okay. So these may be saving graces, but the things that I'm beginning to look at, which is one of the reasons why I've chosen not just two, not just Kwanzaa, the book. The title of the book is Kwanzaa for Conrad, which is the big thick book. The conversation with Likka Sto Rufus is much smaller, as you can see. But one of the things that I've been looking at over a short period of time, just a few years, since we've lived in Long Beach. Prior to that, it seemed that you would see an occasional person sleeping under some piece of rag on the street or up against a building or someplace. And now it seems, especially here in Long Beach, that many, many people are mentally ill and sleeping in the streets. Today, for example, we saw a very, very generous sight. It's the sort of thing that will gladden your heart right there at Long Beach and Pacific Coast Highway, at the intersection going south. There were a group of people, I counted 6 or 7, they had t-shirts on. I couldn't see the front of the t-shirt, but they were pulling a wagon. And
they'd gotten off of the train.
They'd gotten off the train with the wagon. I didn't see it.
Okay.
Anyway, there was a man. The interesting thing, you never can completely know who they are, whether they're black, white, Mexican, Laotian, anything, because that madness seems to take hold of them, and they become sort of indistinct individuals, especially when they're covered up, Anyway, there was this man laying on the sidewalk right in front of this nice new building. And they rolled the wagon up. They had different kinds of things in the wagon. They had bags or something. And they paused. The man was asleep, but he was alert enough that when they paused, he perked up a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and they gave him the bag, and he didn't seem paying attention to the bag. He was just simply waking up.
Right.
When we drove past, he was in a state of almost being awake.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all day, because we've been known to go out with leftovers and leave in a park not too far from here where some homeless people gather, and inevitably some of the homeless people are mentally ill. Now I wonder to myself sometimes, are they mentally ill first and then become homeless, or is it the other way around?
Right. It's
For example, I've had, well, go ahead, I'll let you.
no, go ahead.
No, I've had several friends over time who have had staggering emotional bombardments, and it seems like it just simply left them literally bombed out. You know, they could take it for years, and then when you thought maybe they would be able to recover from whatever was happening, they just go off the deep end and start doing things like forgetting where they live, or
A whole array of things that suddenly happen. And they say with people with Alzheimer's that sometimes they have moments where they're aware that they're forgetting. And then that frustrates them even more.
Ooh.
Okay, and I think that was the case with my Aunt Jessie, you know, that, it was, she was a school teacher. And when she declined and had Alzheimer's, it was, difficult for the family. They fortunately found a website that provides different
but
products.
Alzheimer's is very different from mental illness.
Well, it was like she was having dementia at first.
Okay.
Okay, and then it just branched on.
How do you define dementia?
I'm not a doctor, Dr. Ronald Gray. How do you find dementia?
I think I heard him say once, you can say that a person is suffering from mental illness when they no longer care about themselves.
Right, that was it. And, and I know for Aunt Jessie, she just would have moments when she was not lucid, you might say, that she was like in a world of her own. And then it became more of a world of her own. And the family, like I said, they were fortunate because there's a doctor in the family and very health conscious. And so they tried to help her with doing art. She liked to draw and she liked to create stories. And so they tried to keep her doing that, because as soon as you stop being active, and it really is encouraged for 30 minutes of exercise per day. 30 minutes of exercise per day. And having a good diet, having good sleep, having good company, so that you're not alone. And, Odie and I are both pro and cons as far as adult daycare. But, if there's no alternative.
If it's necessary.
Yeah, if there's no other alternative. If family can't take folks out, and so that you're not at home all day looking at television or bemoaning the fact that your family has given up on you, that's not healthy.
Let me backtrack a little bit concerning something you had about creativity and all this kind of thing. I know, like most creative people, I've had moments of that could be called madness. I was thinking of a weekend. I lived in a building in Chicago called the Avon, and it was full of students, and everybody was mouthing off with the latest whatever jargon. And I decided, what would it be like if I just took a weekend off? And so I got a fifth of whiskey, I got some weed, somebody had in the building had some cocaine, and I think I started like early in the morning. I didn't have anything else to do. I was living right down the street from University of Chicago, where they had the little quads. And I walked out on the quad and I smoked a joint. Well, at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's a little bit early to start doing something like that. I went upstairs. I think I wrote a little bit. I poured myself a big glass of whiskey. I drank it. So I was now drunk and high.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of snoops of cocaine,
Mm-hmm.
and it went through the whole day like that. The whiskey bottle got down to that level, and I think I had gotten drunk and sober.
Mm-hmm.
And then I smoked another joint, and I was too high, and I was trying to figure out whether it was getting the day, was I started my day off or my night off.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I spent the weekend like that. And
Your conclusion?
as I shared the experience, I found out that some people did that ordinarily.
Yes. Yes.
They thought it was just cool, just stay high and messed up.
In fact, yeah, in several of my jobs, I met people that's what they did on the weekend. They got drunk, weekend after weekend. And some people surprised me because they, got married, and then that weekend that they got married, they got drunk again.
Okay, but okay, we're not looking for the cause of it. I'm not a doctor either.
Right.
But there are times when you can see that a person is having to deal with too much,
Mm-hmm.
and they're beginning to sink under the weight of all these responsibilities.
What did your psychiatrist friend say that everybody needed?
Mike Kanash, Dr.
Wherever
Mike
you are,
Kanash,
Mike Kanash, we'd love to hear from you.
from Hungary,
Mm-hmm.
once made a statement that the only thing that most of us need is perhaps a good friend and 2 aspirin. I don't know if that's the case or not,
Probably.
but
Okay, a friend will charge you $250 an hour or $350 an hour. But yeah.
As a matter of fact, I can think of I was not mad, but I was angry. In 1962, I was drafted in the United States Army and sent to Georgia, to Augusta, Georgia, to Fort Gordon, Georgia. And in 1962, the racial situation, as we all know, was bad, as usual. And I managed to get in several fights with several white boys. I won all of them. I won all of them because I became a maniac, and they wanted to fight, and I wanted to kill somebody. The captain of our unit, Captain Bonebreak, decided what I needed to do was go see a psychologist to deal with anger management. So I went. An appointment was made. This was really sort of avant-garde because sometimes they felt somebody was going over the edge. They just simply discharged them. But they did not want to discharge me. They wanted to keep me. I go to the doctor. I'm not going to mention his name, Dr. Feinstein, who was a young man from New York who was dealing with a bad back. So when I came in his office, the first thing he said to me was, I've checked out the little report you had. Listen, you mind sitting over here in the chair and let me lay on the couch there? My back is bothering me. So that was the beginning of our relationship. I think I had maybe 10 sessions with him, and I found out that I was pretty sane, and I was doing okay because he began to unload on me. So, what is it that's happening down here in Georgia, and I'm in the barracks with these Christian guys? They think I killed Jesus, and well, I don't know what you could do about that, doctor, and he's saying,
your Jewish name and all, I don't know.
Yeah. He said, well, I know I'm a Jew from New York, I understand that, but that didn't mean that I killed Christ. And besides, Jesus wasn't living in Times Square at the time.
Times Square, okay.
I mean, he was a funny guy. But, as we went through the sessions, I realized that, he said, well, what's making you angry? And I said, listen, I'm in Georgia. This 1962, if you're paying any attention to what's happening on television, we sit up and watch television, and here's a civil rights parade going by, and 2 or 3 of my cracker friends are sitting up there, redneck cracker friends, and they're sitting up there laughing. I hope to get the ashes burned up before the night is over. So, you know, I got to go over and slap him on the back of his head.
Right.
And he turns around, why'd you do that, Hawkins? Because I don't like what you said. If you don't like what I just did, do something about it. So he stands up and I cold cocks him. Pow! I had a right cross that I'd been taught. So that
Not that he was mad.
well, to them that meant I was losing my mind.
Right, right. You were just upset being taken off your corner.
Well, you know. So anyway, that was my acquaintance with a psychologist officially.
Yes.
And I managed to come out of it. At the end of the session, I must say that I wasn't able to supply him with that bag of weed that he wanted because I thought it was a setup. And, you know, can you get me some, you know, no, doc, I don't do that. So you go through the different things and you come out on top. But there's no reason or there's no clear understanding as to why some people
Can take more than others.
Well, some people surface and other people sink.
Right.
I don't
But
know.
I truly believe that it really does help if you are exercising, if you have a friend, if you love yourself.
How do you know that you love yourself? How do you know that you don't love yourself?
Well, you keep doing
When you reach the point where you're not able to reason, you may intellectualize and say, well, I love myself. But reasonably speaking, why you treat yourself like that?
Well, that's why you should keep yourself in check all along.
Okay, but you evading here.
What?
If you're not aware of how you're treating yourself because you cannot reason,
Well,
you intellectualize but you can't reason, then how do you know that you're treating yourself badly? When I drank that whiskey and smoked that joint and snorted that coke, nobody could tell me that I was treating myself badly. That was
and what were you
good
telling
treatment.
yourself? That was good treatment?
At the time,
Okay, how old were you?
24.
Well,
I wouldn't do that
A lot
now.
of wisdom at 24, okay.
I wouldn't do that now.
Okay, and I think maintaining that, you know, all along, you know, we tend to lose ourselves in television, in game shows, in a variety of things, and not aware of ourselves, which is very important because you have to stay aware of yourself to be focused on where you want to go, what you want to do in life, your dreams, your hopes.
Zola, I completely agree with you about that. But the problem is, I see it, so many of us have been misled or are being misled into thinking, well, you should do this, you should do that, or you should be this, you should be that. Every commercial tells you something.
Yes, those are commercials to thy own
But
self.
people who don't have the strength to resist think what the commercial tells them to
This is
think.
it. Then hopefully you have a good friend or family member that
Or
can
two
point
aspirin.
out. Huh?
And 2 aspirin.
And 2 aspirins to help you. Because again, you know, if you're so unaware of yourself, you are going to sink into the quicksand. Okay? And I'm told you can survive in quicksand, but I don't think it's a good idea.
Well, wait a minute. You're a certified Tai Chi teacher, right?
Right.
How many times or how often over the last 20-some years, 20-some years,
Yes, sir.
have you had a class and maybe out of a class of 20 people, 4 or 5 individuals who will say to you, you say, look, don't you see that you're leaning too far forward and that you're lifting your left heel up as you lean forward? And they say, I am.
That's what I am saying, that too often people are so unaware of themselves. Okay? You know, and consequently, you know, get your head on loop. How's that?
What's it?
You better get your head on loop. How do you go?
Get your head right, Luke.
Yes, okay, the movie's right. Get your head right.
Cool hand, Luke.
Cool man, Luke. You know, and that's it. You know, that one should take time to evaluate where they are in life. Evaluate if they're achieving their goals.
But don't you see,
I see that
for
people
some
are too
people,
busy.
it's impossible for them to do that because they have no equipment to go into that. I think probably because you had caring parents and you had a warm family circle
And I read a lot.
And you read a lot.
I wanted to be a psychiatrist.
Well, see,
so I read the right books, I think.
Okay, but a lot of us have not had that kind of underpinning, that kind of foundation. So we are what, I hate to say it, we are whatever the latest television commercial tells us that we should be.
So I like to suggest, I like to strongly suggest that people take up Tai Chi.
Tai Chi.
All right? And for several reasons. I mean, not everybody
Just give me three.
Okay. Your health, physically, mentally, and internally. All right? That will help you. The practice of Tai Chi will help you mentally. You have the physical for your outside body, and you have the internal health. All right? And it makes you very conscious of you, which is very important. You can be very meditative with Qigong. And the moves may look simple, but there's so many intricate parts of each of the moves that as you do them, you're working your brain, like, you know, just as bad as you would be working a puzzle, Scrabble, if you're playing Scrabble or something. And it's good because you're using all your muscles and your joints, because if you don't use them, you will lose them. If the knees say, well, it hurts to go upstairs, and you stop going upstairs, one day you will not be able to go upstairs. That's just fact.
Well, as a fellow Tai Chi teacher, I can't make an argument against what you're saying. The only thing I look at is that you might just simply be lucky to get into the Tai Chi class that would emphasize what it is you're talking about.
This is true. This is true. And that's one of my, in a sense, frustrations, because when we have the ability to teach and the opportunities are there for people to learn, so many people are not trying to learn. Okay? I mean,
well, they're just getting up early in the morning and putting on, I hate to say this, but I was looking at our class on Sunday in the park. 50 people, at least 50 people there. And maybe half of the women had on tight clothing. Okay, you know, maybe that's okay for, I don't know, some other enterprise. But in order to have the chi flow through you, it seemed best. I've never seen a Tai Chi master with tight clothing on. No. Either male or female. Right. And I wondered, wait a minute, maybe y'all were at the wrong class.
You know, it says that, you know, loose-fitting, comfortable clothes are best for doing the Tai Chi. And, you know, if a person is, say, going to work, or they're working at a gym, what have you, maybe it's not convenient, you know, for them to wear loose clothes. But I would think sometime, one of the Sundays or one of the times that they're practicing, they would wear clothes that would be befitting for the chi to flow through their bodies.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The chi is this vital energy that's coming through us, right?
Yeah.
Somehow it seemed, and I'm not going to stay on this point, but it seemed that if you had something around your thigh called a garter belt, it might occur to you that you're cutting off the circulation.
Putting off your kink in holes.
Yeah. You know.
Well, one other thing I'd like to mention, try to talk our mother, Herb and mine, our mother, into getting off of milk chocolate and getting into dark chocolate. Now, it is a switch. You know, milk chocolate may taste sweet and just oh so good, but check it out to see if it's good for you. If you're going to eat chocolate that is beneficial for the body, you want it at least 85% chocolate. Cacao.
From the cacao.
Yes, from the cacao. So this is dark chocolate lovers, 85% cacao. Okay? And just happens to be from Trader Joe's. So You know, you may not want to get it from the 99-cent store,
Yeah.
but maybe they do have some good dark chocolate, I don't know. But again, make the right choices. Cake, milk, well, whatever you think.
Take time to get into it, to dig into it, to find out what's
Yes,
good.
and so that the food should look good, taste good, and be good for you. Like life.
Okay, having done all the commercials we can do today,
Right, okay.
the book is called Conversation with Likka Sto Rufus,
And
the other one is called Kwanzaa for Conrad.
which can be purchased on Amazon.
Kwanzaa for Conrad.
Okay, or through Author House. And again, Odie's website is www.odiehawkins.com. Yeah, .com.
Hey, appreciate everybody for being here.
Thank you. Healthy life.
Salud.
Salud. So good.
So good. So good.